You're listening to the Back Porch Talk podcast. Danny and Jason had many discussions and debates on the back porch while making pivotal investment moves with assets. That's right, with trading cards. They welcome you to the back porch and right into those discussions about current sports news with a fresh and unique twist. So come on and join us. Welcome to the Back Porch Talk podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason.
She calls Danny.
Fans, we got a full show for you today. NFL and college football. NFL playoffs are upon us, man. Wildcard weekend. For the most part, Danny, wasn't so wild. One game out of the mix here was wild, and that one was that of the Commanders against the Buccaneers, and where Jaden Daniels goes into Tampa Bay and wins 23-20. The Commanders advance. Jaden Daniels has 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, a lot of critical runs too, Danny. 13 carries for 36 yards. Wasn't the greatest average of yards, but nonetheless, man, there were a few key runs that he had. Baker Mayfield has a interesting game, 15 for 18, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, very efficient, but he had a critical fumble that proved to be detrimental to the team, man. I was eyeing this game because Jaden Daniels to me is a player, quarterback to watch out for moving forward. I know this is rookie year. Teams are going to catch up to him. As long as the Commanders has a very decent O-line, has weapons around him, they're going to play hard for him. And I think this is a sign of things to come. He kind of reminds me of C.J. Stroud last year, C.J. Stroud's rookie year, and where nobody could put a finger on C.J. Stroud, try to figure him out. Jaden Daniels is the same this year, but I think he'll have a better sophomore season than C.J. Stroud. What say you, Danny, about this game?
Jason, you mentioned about Jaden Daniels and that key run on 3rd and 1 where they were able to kill the clock at the end of the game to set up for the field goal, which, man, you talk about a roller coaster of emotions on that field goal attempt. Getting up, right? I thought for sure he shanked it, man, when it came off his foot.
Man.
And I'm like, man, whoo, for that, the angle, for him to get it in and, bounce in, it was amazing. It was just a cap to a great game. And Jaden Daniels, too, man, you got to look at when he runs, or yesterday in particular, he was picking his spots. And he wasn't trying, because he got popped a couple times yesterday, too. So
big time.
That was part of it, too, where he had to pick his spots because he's a slight dude. He's not a big guy, and you just don't want him to get hurt, for rushing the ball, where he's very efficient passing the ball as well. Terry McLaurin had a great game yesterday. He showed up. De'Ami Brown came out of nowhere, had a great game with this team, with the Commanders team. I know they go to Detroit next week, playing with house money, and they're not the most talented team. If you look at from a receiver perspective, the names aren't known, right? So you got to also credit that to Jaden Daniels and the offensive line, because the offensive line gives him that time.
Yep.
So you lose sight. Eckler had a good game yesterday. So it was tough for Tampa Bay because they didn't get the ball. Time of possession was well in favor of the Commanders. Mike Evans had a great game.
Yes, he did.
He showed out on Lattimore. He made, and it was crazy because that first series when they scored the touchdown, Baker Mayfield made a point of getting that ball to Mike Evans. It was just time of possession, and the Commanders took care of business, and that fumble was key that with Baker Mayfield towards the end of the game. So congratulations to the Commanders for moving forward. Jaden Daniels also, his demeanor is real cool too. He doesn't get real emotional. So I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
that helps with the team as well to just keep him calm. And yeah, man, it looked very similar to what he did to Atlanta when we played him a couple weeks ago.
And it's been rumored that Doug Williams has been assigned to be the mentor for Jaden Daniels during the playoff run. So,
Hmm.
just as you talk about him being cool, calm, and collected, I think that mentorship has proven to be a success. And to your point about time of possession, the Commanders had the ball for 35 minutes, 26 seconds. Buccaneers 24 minutes, 34 seconds, which is critical, man.
And that wears down that defense too. So like the
Mhm.
play at the end of the game where I can't remember the lineman's name, he had Jaden Daniels dead to rights.
Dead in the right. Yeah, he sure did.
And he Jaden Daniels
All he could do
got,
was
I
get
mean,
the
he read the he knew the play. He was waiting on him and got
uh,
shook and
all he could grab was the towel on his waist. That's it.
in a cloud of
So,
dust.
man. And now, Danny, the other game of note for me, and again, this was the closest game, the Commanders and Buccaneers throughout Wild Card weekend. But the other game that I will mention is that of my Green Bay Packers against the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a tall task. It was a tall task, and one of the things that I I text someone asked me, "What do you think about the game?" This is before the game. I said Jordan Love has to start off fast.
Mm-hmm.
No more wait until the second half to be halfway decent. We need you for a full game because I had a feeling that the Eagles were going to laser focus in on Josh Jacobs. Uh, Green Bay typically starts running the ball with Josh Jacobs. I think there was a stat thrown out there that he has the most rushing yards of anybody in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, how would I say, I had a feeling that the Eagles were going to really laser focus in on Josh Jacobs, and lo and behold, they did. It didn't help that at the very onset of the game, a fumble by Mixon happens at the very start, and I knew then I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a long game, man. This is going to be a long game." And lo and behold, the Eagles go down, score a touchdown. That to me was critical. McManus misses a field goal. That too proved to be critical.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, that's 10 points right there. 10 point swing. So in my opinion, yes, the Packers are young, but they couldn't use that excuse because of last year's experience. They went into Dallas, beat up on Dallas. They went into San Francisco, almost won against San Francisco. So to me, them being the youngest team in the league, I couldn't see that necessarily being an excuse this playoff season.
Mm-hmm.
You have experience now. And not only that, you have a quarterback who you paid millions of dollars to.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to say this, Danny. I think Jordan Love, he's a good quarterback. I think he needs to use the offseason to become even better. I think the Packers need a veteran wide receiver. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a stat out there that said the wide receivers of the Packers dropped the most balls in the NFL, or they dropped the second most balls in the NFL. The defense played out of their minds. Granted, the secondary is a little shaky at times, but for the most part, the defense really kept them in the game. Saquon Barkley, yes, he did rush for over 100 yards. He could have broke away for another long run and touchdown, but he decided to slide and killed some time. Jordan Love goes for 20 for 33, 212 yards, three interceptions. A couple of those interceptions, I think there were bombs, so kind of to me kind of felt like a punt. one of the interceptions. He was just going for it. They were down 2, 3 scores. They needed to score quick. He throws the ball into the end zone for an interception. Jalen Hurts, 13 for 21, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kind of a pedestrian game, but he's coming off of concussion protocol. Green Bay goes into the offseason. So we'll see, man. Wide receiver help, probably some additional help on the O line because once a couple linemen got hurt, it was just downhill from there. Hopefully Myers gets better, Jenkins get better, Elton Jenkins gets better. Dobbs had a bad fall, looks to be a concussion, and he already had a concussion earlier this year. So we want all the players to get back to healthy. But Green Bay goes into the offseason, Danny. What say you about this game?
Jason, I thought Green Bay missed a key opportunity for an upset. They're only down 16. It was 16-10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they were there, they were right there.
And the Eagles could not take advantage of any of the turnovers.
They were right there, man.
To your point, there was a rumor on Bleacher Report today actually about T. Higgins, about the
Yep, I
Packers
saw
being
that.
interested in T. Higgins.
I saw that. Yep.
Um, that would be huge.
That would be major.
Anybody who gets T. Higgins, I think, is a major upgrade because the boy can play. And he's a big receiver. He's got speed. Sometimes he gets the drops, but he's a good receiver. And Cincinnati would be crazy to let him go because I think that helps Chase, but I don't think they're going to pay all those people.
Hmm.
But that was a rumor. And then on the Eagle side, man, yeah, it hurts. You can tell he was rusty. He was just trying to get his feet under him. He scares me sometimes though, especially coming off the concussion, because he doesn't slide all the time. Like sometimes he goes head first,
Yep.
and especially coming off a concussion as an Eagles fan, I'm like, oh man, y'all gotta be nervous some way how he's doing this. But they did pull it out. AJ Brown had one catch in this game. So you look at that and you think you have a pretty good shot. But Saquon had some key runs in the game, and the Eagles ended up pulling it out late. But it was one of those ones where it was like Packers are hanging around. I'm like, oh man, Philly, don't blow this. But they ended up pulling it out 22-10.
You know what was funny? When they showed AJ Brown on the sideline, he was reading a book
Mm-hmm.
called Inner Excellence. And I'm pretty certain Inner Excellence has probably gotten a lot of buys.
Yes.
And I ended up looking it up. I was like, man, what is this book, man? He reading on the sideline, man. I've never seen that. But it's kind of dope.
Yeah.
And Inner Excellence is by Jim Murphy. Train your mind for extraordinary performance in the best possible life. I'm like, oh, he might be onto something. So he probably got a reader
Mm-hmm.
of this book in me. So I digress, but yeah, this is going to be interesting, man. Eagles moving forward. Danny, I just say that this playoffs to me hasn't. I think it's going to really hit come this next round, and we'll get into a couple more games here real quickly. I mean, those were the major games for me. Texans beat up on the Chargers 32-12. A terrible game, an absolutely terrible game by Justin Herbert. 4 interceptions, man.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, CJ Stroud had a decent game, 22 for 33 for 282 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But no way did you throw 4 interceptions. This is a poor game by the Chargers all the way around, man. I feel bad for Khalil Mack. I remember seeing a post by him or an interview that indicate he don't know what he's going to do for next season. He's actually contemplating retirement. I hate it for Khalil Mack because man, he had such a good career It could have been a whole lot better had the Raiders done him right.
Mhm.
Then he went to Chicago. Yeah, I'm a Packers fan. I don't like Chicago, but Chicago wasn't going to go anywhere, man. Let's just be real. And then he goes to the Chargers to, possibly do something there. I just wonder if he decides to come back, if he stays with the Chargers, or if he decides to, go to another team that is contending for a championship.
Yep.
So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what happens there, Danny. The other games of note here, real quickly, Danny, is Ravens and Steelers, 28-14. Ravens prevail. Derrick Henry goes off 186 yards, 2 touchdowns on 26 carries. To me, this wasn't even close. Lamar Jackson goes for 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Russell Wilson, 20 for 29, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think, Steelers got a whole lot of questions in the offseason. Najee Harris only has 17 yards on 6 carries. That is not the Steelers that we know. They got out muscled, out hustled, and was just outmanned, in my opinion. So Steelers goes to the offseason. Ravens move on, and where the Ravens actually will play the Buffalo Bills at Buffalo, and where Buffalo wins 31-7. Game wasn't even close. Josh Allen goes for 272 yards, 2 touchdowns. There was no snow on the ground. So we'll see what happens next week. But man, that sets it up for the MVP candidates. And so, Danny, this is going to be very interesting come next week. What say you about Wild Card Weekend?
Jason, that Texans Chargers game, there was a key play in the second quarter. Chargers actually had command of the game. It was 6-0. They didn't score any touchdowns, but then there was that play. Houston, I believe, was either second or third down in like 19 or something. And Stroud actually, it was like a wild snap. He gains it, whips it. They catch the ball for the first down, and then that changed the whole momentum of the game. They went down and scored, and after that, uh, Justin Herbert, I don't know what happened to him, man. The fire's going on. You don't know if there's family stuff going on. So there could have been I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that you never know with
Hmm.
all that
Hmm.
going on, if that impacted that team or whatever the case may be. But they were in control. And McConkey had a great game. He had 197 yards
Hmm.
and a touchdown. And he would have had almost like 250 yards because Herbert actually missed him on another deep play where he blew past Houston's cornerback. So tough loss, man, for the Chargers. But the Texans came to play, man, in the second half. Like I said, that play was huge.
Hmm.
Stroud
Hmm.
converted that first down, and they took it from there. Steelers, Ravens. Steelers did kind of make it interesting in the second half when they scored them two touchdowns, and it kind of put a little like pause in the Ravens fans like, uh-oh. But then, Ravens took care of business and won the game because I believe it was 21-14 because they scored those two touchdowns right off the bat. But Derrick Henry looked good, Lamar looked good, and then and the Broncos
Hmm.
in Denver. Denver actually could have tied the game at halftime. It could have been 10-10.
Yep.
Will
Yep.
Lutz hit the upright. It didn't
Yep.
go like Zane Gonzalez. It went the other way. And after that, Buffalo just put it on them in the second half. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that Buffalo Ravens game. It's going to be the hype, so much hype, and you just wonder how the players are going to respond to all that hype all week listening to this and see what happens.
Well, Danny, I'll say this: the AFC second round is set.
Hmm.
So you have the Chiefs against the Texans. They're going to be playing at the Chiefs, and
Hmm.
then you have Bills, Ravens playing at Buffalo. Who you got in those two games?
I'm going Kansas City.
Hmm.
Uh, Houston is dangerous though because their defense is good. At time, they've had moments this year where they actually picked off Jared Goff. Remember that game? They picked
Hmm.
him off 5 times. They lost. But I look at Kansas City having this week to get healed up and have some rest. So I expect them to win. And then on that Buffalo Ravens game, I look at Baltimore and I'm worried about their defense. I
Mm,
think their offense will stand up because they're built the same way. They're built for cold weather.
hmm hmm
And let's put it like this: I'm pulling for the Ravens, so I'm gonna go Ravens. Uh, I'm hoping this is where Lamar can show up because this is a big game for Lamar more than Josh Allen, I think
hmm
personally. Because
hmm
if Lamar comes up and plays small, that's not a good look. Josh Allen, I think, may get a pass
mm.
in this game. So, but the Ravens defense can be had at times. Sometimes it just they go in the lulls. But I'm going Ravens, Chiefs.
Yeah, I think Chiefs definitely going to win this one against the Texans. I don't think it's going to be even close. I think the Chiefs have actually 2 weeks to kind of
Mhm.
recover. don't think they played a lot of their players the last game. So
No, they didn't. If they were out there,
yeah,
they weren't playing.
yeah, exactly. The Bills Ravens. I think Ravens are going to handle them pretty well. I think the running game is going to be solid.
Mm-hmm.
King Henry, man. I just don't think the Bills have the muscle to really handle Derrick Henry. So um I see a Ravens Chiefs matchup. And then I think that game is going to be epic. I think Lamar has learned, and not only that, he has Derrick Henry to help him.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same token, man, I'm just thinking about Jones in that front, that defensive front of the Chiefs. That's going to be a game for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the game I want to see.
Yeah.
That's the game I want to see. NFC's just about set. The Rams and Vikings play tonight. They're playing in Phoenix because of the LA fires. Lions Commanders, they're set. They're playing in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
That game, Danny, that's a tough one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think Detroit might get them, but it's going to be close. I think Detroit's going to get them, man.
Mm-hmm.
And let me rethink it being close because I'm thinking about the defense. Lions got a good running game. They're going to be ready.
They get Montgomery back.
Yeah, you know what? This may be one of those and where Commanders lose by like double digits, 10 or something like that.
Okay.
Eagles against either Rams or Vikings. Either one's gonna be tough, man. That game right there to me, if it's against the Vikings, that's a hard one. That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
If it's against the Rams, I can see the Eagles maybe. But here again, what you don't know is how's LA going to come out? With everything happening with the fires,
Yep.
they're playing for a higher purpose, higher cause.
Mm-hmm.
Rams have been hot lately, no pun intended. That Eagles game, watch out for that Eagles game. I think that's the one that an upset could occur. An upset could occur right there for either team, either Rams or Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
So watch out for that one. What say you, Danny, about the NFC?
Commanders, Lions. I think the one thing the Commanders have is they can exploit Detroit's secondary because they have McLaurin and Zacchaeus and Naomi Brown. Like I said, they're not household names, but they can make plays, and that's where you can get Detroit is in the secondary. The momentum, and then getting Montgomery back too. There may be a lot going on there in Detroit uh, for Washington to overcome. So it depends too. If their defense can bring it, you never know, right? But
And Washington's got to score. They got to score.
yes, they got to score touchdowns, not field
Yeah.
goals.
Yep.
And then also in the Eagles game, I think it being at home, we'll also have to watch weather, right? In this time of the year, you never know with snow or anything like that, because that could slow a team like the Vikings down, like Jefferson and Addison. Um, but I think the pressure that they can bring up front, I know Nakobe Dean is out for the playoffs, so that's a huge loss on the Eagles' defensive side of the ball. But they can bring that pressure. And we've seen Sam Darnold in the past not be able to handle that pressure. Matt Stafford, he can't move. So if they can slow him down, I think they have a good shot from the Eagles side. But the only thing that worries me about the Eagles is, man, their offense is so like stagnant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they do have Saquon Barkley. So
Well,
I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go Eagles right now, not knowing the matchup. But once we
mhm.
see the matchup, I may change my opinion. But right now, I'm assuming they can win the game at home. But that offense scares me because yesterday they weren't doing anything, and they're lucky they got out of that game beating the Packers the way they did.
Well, listen, man, AJ may be on the sideline reading in their excellence. If he only gets another this one catch or just
Hmm.
a target. So that one's going to be interesting, man. So,
Yeah.
and just as we talk about NFL, Danny, we got to talk about college and where the championship match, a football game is actually set, and where Notre Dame will be playing Ohio State. And so that's going to be an interesting game. Interesting to a point where I am definitely picking Ohio State, and I'm picking Ohio State big. And I said this last week and the week before that Notre Dame was going to get blasted, and
Hmm.
they keep winning. So we'll see what happens, man. But I think Ohio State's going to win big here. I think Notre Dame has done all they could for the season,
Hmm.
and this is going to be a drubbing. So, what say you, Danny, about the national championship game?
I think the way that Ohio State Texas game ended, I think that was the scare that Ohio State needed ahead of this game with Notre Dame, because I think if they would have blew out Texas, this may have been a letdown game. So I think they had the scare because Texas was driving on them, man, and they made that play to take the win the game 28-14, but it was close. And Notre Dame is I picked them to beat Penn State, and I think this game will be closer because there's something going on, man, with them right this year. After that Northern Illinois game, now they kind of picked it up and they're playing for each other. So I think it will be closer, but I still think Ohio State will win the game just due to, like I said, what happened in the last game, and they had that scare. So now they should be able to go out and take care of business. But we'll see.
Thank you for joining us at Back Porch Talk Podcast. You can also join us on Twitter by tweeting us at back_podcast. For more information, you can go to our website, which is backporchtalkpodcast.com. You can also email us at backporchtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and remember that there's enough hate in the world, so go ahead and spread a little love.